Welcome to the Force Unscripted. We are going to be recording our fourth episode of season 1 about Ahsoka. I'm super excited about this one. This is going to be a 2-part series. So today is part 1, where we're going to discuss the episodes that have already been posted. And then we will do another part as soon as the season finale has concluded and follow up on all of our thoughts that we will discuss today, as well as other thoughts that we are going to have towards the end. I'm really excited about the Ahsoka series. It's something that I've been waiting for a really long time. I know Winshi is also really excited about this, and we forced Bonk Bonk to watch the entire series also. He's got probably more questions than answers, but that's why we have him here to torture him with our abundance of Star Wars knowledge. But without further ado, let us go ahead and begin episode 4, Ahsoka, part 1. What's up, Winshi? Are you ready to discuss some some Ahsoka stuffs?
Yo, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
I was behind the times on watching the episodes. You know me, I'm always late. But after I finished episode 5, I was just jaw down to the ground. Basically, everything that I ever wanted has been in this show as far as Star Wars is concerned. I was really happy to see Dave Filoni giving us the justice that we need, deserve, and love. That man is an absolute creative genius.
Absolutely. This is like all of his work culminating. We've seen Clone Wars for years and years, all the little bits and pieces, and now we finally see, Anakin as Filoni envisioned him in the future after he died. This is awesome. And then Ahsoka's, interactions with him and all that kind of stuff. It's great. Love it.
I'm gonna need you to eat some of your words from the past episode. I see that look on your face. So Anakin didn't fulfill his destiny, huh?
Okay, look, I eat it. I take it back. I said in the first podcast episode I was here that Anakin did not fulfill the prophecy, and I eat my words. I've seen Anakin as the Force balanced. I've seen him in the world between worlds, controlling that place, in charge, being the teacher that he was supposed to be, the guiding force, one could say. I eat it all. I eat all the words.
I believe that Anakin got the glow up that he deserved. One thing that I've always loved about Star Wars is in the original episode 6, when they're having the celebration on the moon of Endor, you see the original stand-in for Anakin, the old guy, and I loved the fact when they went back and remastered it that they put in Hayden, because I think he always portrayed Anakin accurately, and that was something that a lot of people did not agree with, or they thought that it was weird. But you see certain things like the cadence in which he speaks, the darkness in which he feels enveloped in, especially in episode 3. And when Filoni joined, the scene and gave us the Clone Wars, one thing that I've always mentioned is that you kind of understand why Anakin is the way he is. And that was something that they really showed off in episode 5 too, with the war scenes, the live war scenes from Clone Wars, where you see him and he's telling Ahsoka, I have to teach you to be a warrior. This is just what the Jedi have become, and this is what you must be. And it's just, you understand all the trials and tribulation that Anakin Skywalker went through, from his pickup on Tatooine to images such as, the Battle of Ryloth that we see in the Ahsoka series. But I think that Anakin definitely gets the glow up he deserves in this series, specifically post episode 6, because for the longest time after episode 6, you don't really see Darth Vader. Even in the movies, the one thing that I liked in Legends is that he comes and he tries to reconcile with Leia during the Truce at Bakura, for those of you if you're interested in reading that book. And he appears to Leia, he's saying, I know I've done a lot of messed up, I know what I did as Vader, and I'm not saying that you have to forgive me, but I'm sorry. And that's really all you ever get of Anakin post episode 6. And I always wanted to see Anakin as a Force ghost, because we see Yoda twice, we see Obi-Wan 3 or 4 times, but we never saw Anakin outside of that one moment with Leia. And here, I mean, we got the hello snips. I was smiling at that the entire time. We got to see Vader with a human body in action. Like, it was everything that I had wanted for Anakin Skywalker, all put in one spot in a series that is created by one of the most imaginative and creative like Star Wars directors that I can think of at the moment. And I loved it all. Sorry to run my mouth. I fell in love with Ahsoka as soon as episode 1 was over. It's been a great journey since.
So I got a question. Is Anakin dead at the moment? I'm kind of confused by.
Yes. So
Yes.
this takes place, what was it, like 15 years?
10 plus, good number of years after
episode 6. And that episode 6 is when he dies on the Death Star. So yeah, Anakin's been dead for a little bit.
Gotcha. What was he using to talk to Ahsoka in that, by the way? I think you mentioned world between worlds. Is that what that was?
Yeah, so that place where Ahsoka ends up, it's called the World Between Worlds. It's first seen in Rebels, and it's where Ezra goes, the person that they're looking for in Ahsoka. It's where Ezra goes. He goes to a temple, I believe it's on Lothal, right? And he sees the mural of the father, the son, and the daughter of the Mortis gods. And he figures out the puzzle that's there, and he finds his way into the World Between Worlds, which is essentially a place outside of space and time and completely like created or embodied in the Force, which is also what we talked about previously when we were saying that Kylo and Rey, their dyad connection allowed them to kind of utilize that to trade things between each other, even though they weren't together, or to see each other, because the World Between Worlds can span space and time. Ezra saves Ahsoka at one point from Vader, actually, by pulling her into the World Between Worlds while she and Vader were fighting.
Now, one thing that we should mention, though, is the whole World Between Worlds with the Kylo and Rey aspect. That's just speculation at the moment. We don't actually know for sure that that's what they used to pass, but that seems to be the most logical theory, in my opinion, as to how they could do that.
Yeah. Same. And so when Anakin's in there, kind of like controlling what's going on, it shows that he does have some mastery over the place, potentially even over the Force, since that is like a physical embodiment of somewhere in the Force, which is really cool. The fact that the place is tied to the Mortis gods kind of leans into the theory that he was supposed to replace the father and be, the balance in the Force. And now that he has died, he has taken up that role. And we can see that because he splits between Anakin and his Vader personas effortlessly within the World Between Worlds and isn't consumed by either of the sides. And he has actually brought balance to himself. And since he is the son of the Force, he is bringing balance also to the Force through the World Between Worlds.
Another thing that I would like to mention too is that as far as we've seen so far in the media for Star Wars, the only people who are already in the World Between Worlds would be either the father, the daughter, or the son, because we saw the daughter in the owl form flying around when Ezra pulled in Ahsoka. So as far as we know, the only people who are allowed to exist there as is always are those people. So that even just, I feel like that further enforces that theory that Anakin has assumed the role of the father. And I think that's really cool because he was just already there. He was just chilling. He was like, hello, Snips. What's up, dude?
He's like, I didn't expect you so soon, which means he's been there for a hot minute, waiting around. So that's kind of probably where he resides. And since Ahsoka at one point was dead and resurrected with the life force of the daughter, she would have some form of access to the place that, other people wouldn't have, which kind of explains how she ended up there, whether she was dragged there by Anakin or she put herself there. I still think she would be able to.
I wonder if that means that the World Between Worlds kind of functions as like a Force limbo too. Like if you become one with the Force and become like a Force ghost, I wonder if that's your first pit stop before you fade into the Force ether or whatever.
Or if that's just, it's not even a pit stop, that's just where you end up. It's where you chill forever.
Then why haven't we seen anyone else though?
We might. We haven't seen a ton of the Force ghosts outside of Yoda and Obi-Wan. So maybe Qui-Gon shows up.
That's my homie. He is the Jedi stoner pothead. I don't care what anyone says. That is who Qui-Gon Jinn was. He was the Force hippie.
When we see Yoda in The Last Jedi. I don't know.
I think it's The Last Jedi.
Yeah, so we see Yoda talking to Luke, and Yoda is able to interact with the world around him, even smacking Luke in the face. So he has some like physicality, and we've seen Anakin now being able to fight with Ahsoka physically. So potentially Yoda's there as well. He's able to access the same kinds of things. Maybe not as, flawlessly as Anakin does, but he do it.
He do be doing it. All right, so let's go ahead and start some of this episode discussion. I'm really excited to get into it. One thing that I really want to kind of focus on for a little bit is the whole Sabine Ahsoka situation. I think that it is absolutely hilarious that the first instance that we really see of Sabine and Ahsoka is Sabine just kind of being like, well, what you're saying, I'm gonna do what I want to anyway. I just know in my heart of hearts that Anakin and Obi-Wan are watching somewhere, looking at Ahsoka, laughing their ass off, because Obi-Wan's like, yeah, Anakin did that. Anakin's like, yeah, Ahsoka did that shit. Now Ahsoka's finally getting the whole legacy of that Force line. I love that. That was so funny to me. I was like, I know they're laughing at her. And
it's a teaching moment, just like the Ryloth battle, because, in the Battle of Ryloth, she disobeyed her orders and went and did, what she wanted and got a bunch of people killed. Well, Sabine went, off on her own, did her own thing, got herself stabbed and lost the map, and definitely a failure when you don't prepare well to go off and do your own thing, especially in Sabine's case, since she's like super Force not sensitive.
And I guess you could also relate it even back farther past Ahsoka to Anakin also, because technically the whole thing on Geonosis was just him not listening to what he was supposed to be doing and messing up, losing a hand. Like, he just
we'll take them together. No, now lose his hand.
Oh man. So one thing that I also wanted to talk about too was the first episode. I wasn't upset, but the scene where Baylan and Shin like infiltrate the New Republic ship, the fighting, specifically from Shin, was like a little cringe. She seemed really stiff and inexperienced, which I guess makes sense because she is like a learner, like that is her master. But by the time Ahsoka versus Marok comes around, and then all of the fights after that, I absolutely enjoyed the choreography of each of them. They were very well written, and especially all of Ahsoka's fights, whether it's Ahsoka versus Marok, Ahsoka versus Baylan, or Ahsoka versus Anakin. I thought that she really did an amazing job at not only showing off her lightsaber skills that were from what she learned from Anakin, from all the intensive training that he put him through, but also you kind of see how she's like kind of developed, I wouldn't necessarily say her own style. Well, I guess it would be her own style, and how she uses it to not only outmaneuver, but outsmart her opponents most times too. Like, maybe not in the Baylan fight, but definitely in the Marok fight, and for sure in the Anakin fight.
And I think the Baylan fight's a little skewed in Baylan's favor, because she did grab the map and it did burn her hand pretty badly, which she was holding her own up until that point, and then after she burned her hand and couldn't hold her lightsaber in both hands, he was able to easily overpower her with his superior physique.
Why wasn't she dual wielding from the start against Baylan?
My theory is that she was testing his abilities, and also she was trying to get to that map, so she needed a hand free. And since he does seem to be such a powerhouse, she might not have felt like she could use her agility to its full potential, because she was just going to get beat down. They did show that the both of them are very knowledgeable of their forms, of their lightsaber forms. They switch up their forms to match the other person multiple times throughout the fight. You see that in their little, dances slightly before they actually exchange blows. Ahsoka will change a stance and Baylan will immediately, counter with his own stance. That's them switching between the various stances and whatnot that actually counter the other person's lightsaber form. And they would have been trained that way, since they were both trained by the Jedi in the Jedi Order. It was really cool to see two masters of, lightsaber combat actually showing off their skills and whatnot, versus just Ahsoka and Marok, where Marok's just a resurrected Inquisitor looking dude, and they were trained specifically not to be too strong because Vader and Palpatine didn't want them to be too powerful and try and come after them. So they gave them moderate training and then spinny lightsabers to counter that. Obviously, the spinny lightsabers did not do much for them in Ahsoka's case.
So Merrick was the one that had the spinning lightsaber, and then he got slashed, and there was a ghost coming out, right?
Yeah, so there's Morgan Elsbeth. She mentioned that she's a descendant of the witches of Dathomir. Maul's brother Savage had the same kind of thing going on, and they were able to give Maul legs back using the same kind of magic. They use the Force in a very different way than like the Jedi and the Sith do, but it is a Force technique per se that they use to resurrect or animate bodies. So yeah, that was what the green stuff coming out of him.
Yeah, it's not Sith alchemy, but Sith alchemy came from it. It's basically all rooted in not necessarily solely Force use, but Force use and witchcraft, because there are witches, so alchemy basically. Now, one thing that I did want to mention coming off that is, does that mean that Balin and Shin are dark Jedi and not Sith?
Yes, they are not Sith. I don't think they are Sith.
One thing that I noticed when Ahsoka and Balin were fighting is that if you look at his lightsaber, it's not so much red as it is orange. Have you noticed that?
It's confirmed orange. Filoni has said that it's orange. Yeah, so, and since we know that lightsabers, typically the Sith bleed them red, since they aren't red, that kind of, indicates that they aren't fully Sith. They're just Jedi that use the dark side, or, well, dark Jedi, basically. And we can see that in Balin's manner. He's not overly aggressive and vicious. He even doesn't really want to fight Ahsoka, where a Sith would just want to overpower her, show their dominance, that kind of thing. He's just got a mission, and he's on a path. Just happens to involve using the dark side of the Force.
One thing that I really appreciate about him, too, was to Sabine, he kept his word, too, and he was like, I'm going to keep my word. And I thought that was very honorable. Granted, bad guy, sure, but honorable bad guy.
Which also, reinforces the point that he's probably more of a dark Jedi than a Sith, because a Sith would absolutely just go back on their word and kill Sabine immediately after acquiring the map. That we kind of see that in Shin. Shin tends towards the dark side more. We can see her anger and her rage way more than Balon, who's very, composed and collected.
Do we just want to chalk that one up to teen angst?
We can. I'm fine with that. She got some issues. I'm sure plenty of people think they can fix her.
Oh man.
So is there any backstory on Balin and Shin, or are they just introduced in this?
Not much. We don't know Shin's origins at all. We do know that Balon was a Jedi during the Clone Wars. Obviously he escaped Order 66, but that's about all the information we have. We don't know anything about, their assignments, their history as part of the Order. If Shin was potentially, which I think she's too young to have been a youngling at the academy.
Oh, definitely.
So he had to find her somewhere, and we have no clue at this point any of that history.
If she was a youngling during the time of Order 66, that would put her in her early mid 30s.
Yeah, she seems more like 20, 25 maybe.
Maybe. She looks really young. She could be adolescent, honestly. We don't really have the information to know.
I don't know. Her manner of talking puts her a little bit older than maybe Anakin's age in Clone Wars. 19,
20?
Yeah.
Were we still that cringe at 19 or 20?
Yes. You absolutely.
Whoa, hold on. I'm gonna need you to redact that statement, sir. I've never been unhinged. I've always been the prime example of a upstanding young gentleman, okay?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
So another thing that I really wanted to talk about too was Jason. Of course, we're not talking about Jason Solo like we were last episode. We're talking about Jason Syndulla. First off, tragic name, sad for him, because I feel like I honestly hope that that's going to hint at maybe the path he's going down. If it doesn't, I'm cool with that also. I just thought that the name was hilarious, especially since the last episode we were talking about Jason Solo. But what I really want to focus on is the fact that he was able to perceive the fight that Ahsoka and Anakin had in the world between worlds from the physical world, which I can't confirm this, but I'd like to think that is some hint at his father, because we all know that towards the end of his life, Kanan Jarrus got blinded and couldn't see. And I just think it's kind of ironic that his son can hear what he can't see, even though it's not in the same dimension. And I think that shows, one, how naturally innate and intimate his connection to the Force is. But I would like to believe in my heart of hearts that is like a sort of silent homage to Kanan Jarrus too.
I didn't really thought of that. I hadn't thought of that angle about Kanan being, blind and his son listening through the Force. And, he's even able to like get Hera to hear through it as well. So it's definitely some, some Force shenanigans going on his side. Kind of, further confirms that what Anakin and Ahsoka are experiencing are real and not just a vision or something that, Ahsoka's conscious chalked up.
I think it's really cool that Jason is able to make his mother kind of aware of the situation. I don't know if that's indicative of some kind of Force power, but I would like to believe so, because as far as we know, Hera Syndulla isn't a Force sensitive, right?
Yeah, we haven't seen her do anything Force related, I don't think.
So that would make me believe that maybe Jason also has some kind of power that makes him like a conduit, like I don't know how else to describe it. Transitive property of the Force, I guess. Like if he is aware of something, maybe he can make someone in his surrounding aware of it. There are thousands of different Force powers that can manifest themselves, and I am really excited to see how his storyline progress with the name he has, because we all know Jason Solo was very gifted in the Force. Now his stuff manifested more towards animals and plant life and stuff, but by the time Darth Caedus comes around, I mean, the guy is very goddamn powerful in the Force and just very strong, can flow walk, which is manipulating the flow of time, and that's in itself is incredible. And I feel like if that power presented itself in this timeline, it would definitely somehow have to interact with the world between worlds, and I feel like there's a lot of symbolism in this character Jason, and I really want to see where this character goes, because I personally was not expecting, I didn't even know that they had a kid. So getting to see Jason, knowing his name, knowing what he's already done so far in the series makes me really hopeful for this character, and I really want to see how this character develops.
Wait, so you didn't watch the end of Rebels?
Because
he's there, right?
Is he? If he is, I don't remember.
So.
I'm gonna be honest. I
think he's
probably
like right at the very end.
Yeah, I probably just missed that part, but I definitely didn't expect Hera and Kanan to have a non-Twi'lek baby. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, in Legends, Twi'leks and humans could not have kids. So yeah, that was definitely a surprise. I guess a welcome one. It makes me sad for some of the characters in Legends who were together, Twi'leks and humans, and were depressed basically because they couldn't have kids, watching other people around them have kids and wishing that they could have their own. Makes me sad for them, but kind of, hopeful for as well, because it's cool that they can. Although it's weird that it comes out as human.
Well, we also do see one other instance of a Twi'lek and a human having a baby during the Clone Wars, when the one Twi'lek had a baby with clone. There were two kids. No, it wasn't Clone Wars. It was Bad Batch.
Oh.
Basically, okay. a clone and a Twi'lek have two Twi'lek kids that play with Omega.
Aiden and Lasima, man.
They didn't get the baby they deserved. Speaking of Mandalorians, let's talk about the Maldalorians. I know you want to talk about that for sure, so I'm gonna let you take the reins here.
They look so cool. The armor was great. I love the sound when lightsabers strike Beskar. It's such a satisfying sound. And Ahsoka pulling out all the stops. The actress for young Ahsoka was amazing with her lightsaber skills and movement, fighting the Maldalorians, taking out what I think 5 in that short little sequence. Totally awesome. Mandalorians are cool, and I mean Ahsoka's just better. Ahsoka has the highest body count of Mandalorians, I think, of anyone in Star Wars, besides, like, maybe Revan.
He absolutely embarrassed Mandalore the Ultimate, so Ahsoka is definitely a close second for sure.
I've seen some compilation videos of Ahsoka's like body count just for Mandalorians. It's great. She's a killer. She's insane.
She I was really happy to see not only the Battle of Ryloth but the Siege of Mandalore as live action, because of all the stuff during the Clone Wars, those were well, maybe not so much the Battle of Ryloth, but definitely the Siege of Mandalore is something that I wanted to see live action, because when I watched the scene from Clone Wars where Ahsoka goes there with like her special Ahsoka complement of clone troopers, and she's just mid-air, like, I don't know, X thousand feet in the sky, just hopping from plane to plane, not only killing Mandalorians, but saving clone troopers, and then slides down on a platform to fight more Mandalorian. Like, I was so happy to see even just a glimpse of the Siege of Mandalore in live action form. It was great. It was perfect. It was chef's kiss. It was well done. I may or may not have a bulge in my pants thinking about it. Like, it's everything that I wanted.
We rewatched that scene last night, so it's very fresh. It was so good. And when she lands on that platform in Clone Wars and just demolishes them, looked away from the fight, as Brick 3PO has mentioned yesterday, looked away from the fight from the Mandalorians, who are trained, like their whole people, all their armor, everything is meant to kill Jedi. That's what their whole kit is for. And she turns away from them and still smacking them down. And I mean, we see that here in Ahsoka, live action. She's just whipping through them, and it's great. And then immediately after, we see Rex compliment her. That was so good. Their relationship is, a big part of her story, and Tamura did a great job, even for just the moment that he was there. And their armor looked so good, so good. For phase one,
BB.
phase two. Phase one is my favorite clone armor.
I want to see if the Ahsoka series does more like flashback little tidbits of like live action stuff. I hope they do, because one thing that I always loved was the relationship between Rex and Ahsoka. Like, you see at the end of the Clone Wars series, and you see again when they come back in Rebels together. Their relationship. They never lost that bond, which was something that I absolutely loved about those two characters. And it was great to not only see that, but to also see kind of in like real time how far Ahsoka has grown. Like, you get like it's small, but in that last episode, you see her as like a kid, how she's like hesitant in battle. She's worried about everything that's going around her. She's very conscientious about the loss of life around her, as like a Jedi should be. Then you see her again at the Siege of Mandalore, where she's just like, she's on a mission. She's like, I know what I have to do. I have to fight. I have to get there. And she's very determined. There's no hesitation. It's like she's lost all sort of restraints. But then you think about the talk that her and Anakin are having, and it's like at that moment during the Siege of Mandalore, in my opinion at least, and you may disagree with this, she was kind of, I don't want to say peak, but she hadn't found out about Anakin being Darth Vader yet. And she, in her mind, she had a clear goal that she wanted to achieve, and she did not hesitate towards achieving that goal. But then, now that she's discussing things with Anakin, she's finally trying to reach closure again. You can see that there is hesitation, there are doubts, there is a lack of this bold confidence that she had during the Siege of Mandalore that she seems to no longer have. But then she does get the closure in which she's looking for, and that's when you get, boom, Ahsoka the White, and I love it.
In the fight against Maul in the Siege of Mandalore, she was 100% Anakin's cocky Padawan, apprentice, whatever. She had his mannerisms. She had, the comebacks and whatnot for Maul, the taunts, everything. That was totally Anakin's Padawan there. And yeah, we see her, live action here. She's going ham on these Mandalorians, and then it's Anakin saying, you are all the parts of me, and she's saying, yeah, well, there's a really big part of you that was extremely evil. And he's like, that's in me too. And he goes, you're not getting it. You don't understand. Back to the beginning. She doesn't understand that it's a choice. At that point, she thinks, it's just part of her. She's felt this whole time that she abandoned Anakin. She abandoned him, and he became Vader partially because she left the Order. She felt like she could have, saved him and whatnot. And he's trying to show her here that it wasn't her fault. It was his choice. It was, a part of him that made that, choice to become Vader through all the interactions. And I think this was the confrontation that Ahsoka needed. She had fought Vader before, but it was full Vader having, as he would say, killed Anakin off. And now we have Anakin back, but with the parts of Vader that he, still retains the skill, the power, the hunger for, power, I guess. He's definitely peak Anakin here that we see, and so she gets to fight him. She gets to fight Anakin as he would have been as Vader without all the suit and whatnot, but still retaining his cognition, his actual balance, or the word I said for Bail, composure. There we go. And she fights him and she wins. And which I really like, because every single time we've seen Ahsoka drop her lightsabers, she wins the fight. Every single time Ahsoka has lost her lightsaber, she wins the fight. She grabs the other dude's lightsaber and takes it. She's done it to like 2 or 3 different Inquisitors now. She's a master at beating people without a weapon, which is awesome. And when she takes the weapon, she shoves it in Anakin's face and her eyes go yellow. And we see her show him that there is that dark in her, and then choose to throw it away. She throws away the saber. She doesn't try and kill Vader, who she's fighting at that point. And she forgives him. She chooses that she wants to be someone who isn't dead to the light side of the Force, which is how I kind of interpreted that life or death conversation.
I definitely agree with that. And I thought that all of the symbolism there's so much, from what I was talking about earlier with Jason, from seeing Anakin transition between Anakin and Vader, seeing Ahsoka's eyes go, temporarily, what were they? Were they red or yellow? I couldn't remember.
They were yellow. His were red, which is also symbolic. And on Mustafar, his eyes are yellow. His eyes are going yellow throughout. Every time we've seen Vader, his eyes were yellow. They were not red. But the only person we've seen with red eyes like that is the son, of the Mortis gods. He had full red eyes, which kind of further cements in my mind the theory that he is the balance, taking the place of the father. Because here his eyes go red. They don't go yellow. They go red, which is totally new for him, but not new for people associated with the Mortis gods, and in particular the dark side of the Force. Her eyes going yellow shows that she has the potential to choose the dark side, not necessarily the power of the Mortis gods like Anakin has, because they aren't red, but it shows that she does have the potential to be evil, but is not. She makes the choice to be Ahsoka the White, essentially, which is great.
I love that all Star Wars fans have just been stealing from Lord of the Rings, just calling her Ahsoka the White. Like, all of them. Like, everywhere I looked, everyone was like, Ahsoka the White, Ahsoka the White, Ahsoka the White.
So, is her, like, white lightsaber, like, was it, like, foreshadowing then?
I guess maybe in a sense. Like, the story about her kyber crystal is like, I believe it was a Sith crystal that had been bled to turn red, and she like healed it, and it became pure, and that's why her blades are white.
And I think maybe from my understanding, the Sith bleed their lightsabers red. The Jedi have various colors, but since she wasn't a Jedi, I felt like the colorless choice was part of her identity as not a Jedi, not having finished the training, or even trying to be similar to the Jinsari that we see, in Legends and whatnot. The Sentinels in the Rebels and whatnot, they have yellow sabers, so it's not quite that either. I think she's meant to be like a full middle ground at that point. Maybe we'll see her bleed her lightsabers blue or something again.
I don't think That'd you can bleed lightsabers a non-red color, can you?
We don't know.
I always thought lightsaber, the color was determined by like some kind of crystal they used. It wasn't okay.
And hers used to be blue.
Green then blue.
Anakin turned them blue. I don't know that he replaced the crystal.
I assume that he replaced the crystal. I just really love the design of I've always said this. I love the design of Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, and I love the trend of like Jedi before Order 66 of like their students having like sabers that are somewhat similar to their master's design as like their first one, and then when they become a Jedi Knight they make their own. Like you see that with Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan. Like I absolutely love the fact that they did it also with Anakin and Ahsoka. Now granted, Anakin didn't make enhance the new Ahsoka saber, so it makes sense that they look very similar in aesthetic, but I've always enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed specifically Anakin's saber style, and I really like the Clone Wars Ahsoka sabers as well.
I'm not sure that I have a favorite lightsaber. Lightsabers are cool. I love them. I love the combat, but I'm more of a Beskar and blasters kind of guy.
Of course you are, you Mandalorian dweeb. All right, so that is our part 1 of the Ahsoka episode, discussing the first 5 episodes. As I mentioned, we will be back with part 2 after the season finale. But thank you guys for being here for the 4th episode of The Force Unscripted, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.